Hello again, Before I Reviews, here to talk about Grimlock. Now, really this is my just anticipation of the Voyager class Fall of Cybertron Grimlock that is going to be released fairly soon, I think. So I'm extremely excited about this. And sort of in honor of that, I figured that I'd pull out my original Generation 1 Grimlock. That's the real deal, guys. That is from my childhood. That's not a reissue. That is a first-time out Grimlock. Decent shape. He's got some pretty loose joints, and stickers are starting to peel and such. But you know, that happens after close to 30 years. Man, I'm getting old. So anyway, and then here we have the Voyager class Transformers Animated Grimlock, which I love this figure. Now, I don't know if he gets quite enough credit for being as awesome as he really is, but he is great, and we'll talk about both of these here in some detail. So let's go ahead and start with the original G1 Grimlock. Now, if you've not seen this guy, I know a lot of you probably have him or have seen him up close, but if not, this is really aimed at you. Back in the day, Transformers didn't have a lot of articulation, but the molding in the plastic was done very nicely, and there is a ton of detail here on this toy. As you can see, just kind of going around the figure. He's got just a lot of detail in the plastic mold itself. So very nice. On the bottom, there's not really even hardly any kibble on this guy. I mean, there's just not, which is pretty cool. His arms do move up and down. His mouth opens and closes. Now talk about the detail again. Look behind Grimlock's head here. Can you see all that gold, kind of clear plastic on top and gold robot stuff underneath it? That's awesome. That's very cool. Inside Grimlock's mouth, and his mouth did open, he's got a weapon in there, I think. Is it a tongue or a weapon? I don't know. I think that looks like maybe what his fire comes out of. So, again, very awesome. He's got the sharp pointed teeth. They probably wouldn't make Grimlock's teeth that sharp today. Maybe they would. Red painted eyes. The show had him with blue eyes, but the toy always had him with red, at least in the original release. So that is Grimlock up close. He has his panel on his back, and if you lift that up, it creates like a little cockpit. And you could take small figures and you could stick them in there and they could ride the dinosaurs back as he moves through the, through the battlefield. So that's very awesome. Now to transform Grimlock, again, we're talking a G1 toy, so it's not super complex. And a lot of the other Grimlocks that came after him transformed in a similar way. But the first thing that you do is you split the tail. Easy enough. Then you come back here and you open up his legs, just like that. Take the dinosaur head and just lift it up, just like that. That swings around and just rests here on his back. It doesn't peg in, doesn't need to. Gravity just keeps it back. So you leave it there. You start to see the reveal of the robot head. You take the chest piece and you split it right down the middle. Okay? Hello, Grimlock. And now, what you want to do at this point is, obviously you have this huge gap between this part and the bottom of his head. So you take this whole little assembly chest piece right here, and you just lift it out. Come on out. Come on out. There you go. So you take this whole piece, and you pull it out, and you kind of pivot it back up and slot it into that space. And it fits there very secure. Pull these up, just like that. And then, holding it just like I am here, you want to leave that one part just under his waist and rotate the leg underneath it. So you do that on both sides. And again, that's not too uncommon with a lot of toys do. Now at this point, you want to reveal the hands. And you've got some good pivot action in here as well, which I didn't talk about in dinosaur mode. But you just push that in, his hands are revealed, and you can kind of put those claws down like that to give him kind of a claw weapon. You do the same thing on the other side. And then at that point, you really just, you pose him up. See if we can get him to stand. He's pretty back heavy. There we go. And that is Generation 1, Grimlock in robot mode. Now again, the detail carries over in robot mode. Look at all this chest detail. Very cool. There's a piece of translucent plastic here. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and it looks great. One of the flaws on this figure is that he ends up having this really pretty wide chest area on top of his shoulders, and his head sits way back there. From the front, it looks great, but when you start getting in some of these angles, yeah, it's not the best, but it's okay. Now, again, G1, you don't have any elbow articulation. You do have some knees here due to transformation, but this was pretty much it. Back in that day, and you can bring these down if you want, but back in the day, the cool thing when playing with these toys wasn't so much getting them in these crazy fully articulated poses, but it was just taking them from robot to vehicle to robot to vehicle to plane to dinosaur, whatever kind of transformer you had. That was part of the fun of playing. You could quickly transform them and take off into make-believe. But anyway, I wanted to just share this guy with you, and getting a close-up look at his head sculpt. Yeah, I mean, he's cool. He's Grimlock, and he's awesome. So that's Generation 1 Grimlock. Now, let's talk about Transformers Animated Grimlock. This figure, when I first saw pictures of him, I wasn't too sure. Didn't know what to think about that. But when you have this toy in your hands, he really is a fantastic figure. I mean, the way that he has this hunched over stance like I think a real T-Rex would do. I think a long time ago, the thought was that the Tyrannosaurus would drag his tail on the ground, and so a lot of the toys would be kind of upright. And as we moved on and science learned more about dinosaurs, they determined that they walked kind of like him. And so it's great that they were able to take this figure, make him balance in a way that he can kind of pull off a real dinosaur, albeit with the cartoony aspect of Transformers Animated. I think they pulled it off great. This figure is very cool. He does have a little mouth opening gimmick, so if I push this button...
Me Grimlock! Grimlock love to talk! Yes, he does!
Okay, I will never do that again. So that is Animated Grimlock. Now, this toy doesn't come without his flaws. Primarily, right under here. Hello, Grimlock's head. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but he's just staring at you, and there he is. He's just staring at you in there. Big, kind of gappy, open hole, kind of thin plastic up here. But how often do you play with these toys, especially in dinosaur mode? Hello, I'm a dinosaur. No, you don't do that. You keep them down, you don't notice those things, and it works fine. So I understand why they did it, for engineering-wise, to make this toy do what they wanted it to do, and I'm okay with that. He does have light piping, and if you get the flashlight just right, his eyes glow blue, and that is cool. Again, going back to kind of G1 cartoon with the blue eyes instead of the red eyes in dinosaur mode. To transform Animated Grimlock, it's actually very similar to how the Generation 1 Grimlock transformed. You want to come around back here to the tail, and you want to just start to split that tail. Then you want to come in here, kind of pull these pieces up right here on his back, and you want to go ahead and separate the tail even further. And then pull these legs around. Alright? And then you take these little back panels and you flip them back, and they do kind of tab into place here. So, there is a slot. You don't really have to, I suppose. But if you get it just right, you'll find that you might need to maneuver some plastic around. But you'll get it to tab in, and you'll get a real nice tight fit. Now the tail is going to come around, and you'll see that you've got this tab slot here, and there's the tab, and you just basically peg it in on both sides. Because in transformation, You usually have to do things more than once. All right, now you have these kind of wonky legs here going on with the waist, so you just kind of have to, oops, getting ahead of myself. So you kind of just have to straighten those things out and bend them like that. Now, we're not finished yet. Just like Generation 1, you want to take that chest piece, and you want to just, instead of having to pull it completely out and maneuver it, you just put your thumbs down here and pop it up. Okay? And then you're done there. What you want to do with the head, the dinosaur head, is you want to go ahead and reach around here and flip the head up. Okay? That's different, and I like it because it keeps it from hanging down and being visible when he's in robot mode, kind of hanging down around between his legs. No need for that. So you've got that going on. Then you can take the little Grimlock dinosaur hands and just tab them in completely so they disappear. Just like that. So what you end up with is kind of a winged look. Now his arms, depending on the figure that you had, some of these things perform the way that I think they should, and some don't. But basically, you want to get that elbow joint up as high as you can, and my figure does it on one side and not on the other, and I'll show you what that means. But you want to just get it to the point where you just get it shoved up there as much as you can, and you'll feel like at some points you're going to split the plastic, but just give it a good shove, and it goes in. Now his hands are actually formed by the feet, and I think this is pretty ingenious, but you just kind of clamp these things together and you spin it, and his claws become robot hands, and it looks believable. You know, it doesn't look like something that was forced while designing the figure. On this side, you know, again, flip it, collapse, make the hands, but on my figure I can't get that joint to go up into the plastic. It just won't go. I could probably unscrew this a bit and make it happen, but I just haven't done it, and I'm okay with it. It looks fine. So that is Grimlock in his robot mode. Now, this guy, I think he looks great. I love this big underbite that he has from Animated. I mean, this face is very cool. It still looks like Grimlock, but it's different, obviously, than G1. Articulation, you do have some head rotation here. It's not on a ball joint, but he can look left and right. He cannot look up and down. You have full-on ball-jointed shoulder, which actually has remained fairly tight on this figure, so that's good. You've got an elbow hinge here. You've got a painted Autobot symbol, which looks great, silver paint, on the translucent plastic part of this figure. You've got knee articulation, which is great. Turning him around to the back, you know, yeah, he's got a dinosaur backpack, but it doesn't look bad. I think it looks good. So that's Grimlock. He has some light piping in robot mode as well, and that looks great. That's awesome. Now, Grimlock came with one of the coolest weapons of any Transformer line. This giant lava sword. I don't think that's what it's called, but that's what it looks like. It looks like it came straight out of a volcano's center, and it's cool. Now, the neat thing about this sword is it has a gimmick. And I'll tell you what, I hate weapon gimmicks in general. But on this figure, it's really quite fantastic. As you can see inside Grimlock's hand, right in there, he's got a little peg sticking out. Why? Why, you ask? That peg is going to peg into this sword, so let's stick this guy right in here. If you get it in there just right, when you flip Grimlock's wrist, that peg comes out, and look at that thing explode. I mean, there's just flames coming out of it. And if Grimlock came at you like this, let me tell you something. You'd run. I know I would. I mean, this is just, that's an amazing look right there. The flaming sword coming at you, full speed by Grimlock. Get out of town. So, yeah, there's Animated Grimlock. He's an awesome figure. You can find him on eBay and Amazon for decent prices, depending on the seller at any given time. To compare him size-wise to his Generation 1 counterpoint, he's quite a bit taller, as you can see. But a nice homage to the original Generation 1 while retaining a lot of the Grimlock characteristics and also giving him that kind of animated edge that series that series had. So, huge fan of this. This one, huge fan for sentimental reasons, and I love Grimlock. Now, there's another one coming, and when that gets here, you better believe we'll be doing a review right here on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. Please subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up if you like what you see, and leave me a message in comments, and I will respond. Because I'm good like that. Anyway, you guys take care. Talk to you again later.
Me Grimlock.